What is going on, everybody? And once again, if you have not heard it about 1,000 times up to this point, let me be the 1,001st time. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. We are almost through the first 24 hours of the brand new year. And of course, tragedy has already struck. And, whatever. We'll get into that. We'll discuss all that all the goings on. Unfortunately, we got to bring life into this, and it's bad because sports are supposed to be an escape from life. But because of the events that occurred in New Orleans this morning, we're going to have to discuss some tragic life-type stuff, and we will not shy away from that. But, hey, I hope that everybody has had a great day up to this point, enjoying your final day of the 2024 holiday period, as tomorrow, January 2nd, of course, we'll get back to business as usual. But we're here on the final word on our regularly scheduled time to be here. We're not taking any holidays off. We don't do that, especially if you're a fledgling network trying to get their feet on the ground. So I'm not going to take days off. But I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad you're here. And let's go on this ride together. Yes, and kind of a slow day. Some things have happened, and we'll talk about them. College football was definitely on display today. The early game, the Fiesta Bowl, not the Fiesta Bowl, but the Peach Bowl between Arizona State and Texas, one for the ages. We'll talk about that. We'll talk also about Penn State last night in the Fiesta Bowl. I knew they were in one of those bowls. And then tonight, the Rose Bowl just wrapped up out in Pasadena. And, of course, no Sugar Bowl tonight. The game between Notre Dame and Georgia postponed until tomorrow in light of what occurred in the early morning hours in New Orleans on Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, where I've been many times. I've been down there. I've been in the Quarter. I've been on Bourbon Street. And it's definitely a shock, a shame, not a way to start off the year in a positive direction. But we'll talk about that, and I'll express my opinions about a lot of things that I don't normally express here on this program. We, of course, will also give you your day in Philadelphia sports history. The Eagles practicing today, making a decision about what they'll do with their starters on Sunday and how that affects Saquon Barkley. We'll get into that. Our WJC wrap, as they are on an off day, as they prepare for round 2 or the qualifying round. Now that we're done with the preliminaries, we're moving on into not the medal round, so to speak. There's one round of pre-medal round stuff, and then we hop into the medal round over the weekend. Team USA on full speed ahead with them as they're coming off the huge win over Canada last night. We'll get into that. We have our Of the Night segment, and of course we have our card review. All that and more here on the New Year's Day edition of the Final Word with MattyB. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but all over our social media, all over our YouTube channel, we are now debuting some fresh new logos and overlays. We're debuting them here in 2025, and I want to thank, I don't know if I can do it publicly. Can I thank you publicly? Are you out there? Let's just say I want to thank the person responsible. He knows who he is for assisting me in our network on kind of starting off our new year with a new look. So the Final Word, the wraparound, the Birds Blast, all of it got a kind of a facelift over the last few weeks, and I want to thank the individual who was responsible for that, because I don't know if I can publicly yet. But thank you. Thank you very, very much. And with everything else, please like and subscribe on all of our social media platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, X. Well, X and Twitter are the same thing. All right, let's get into our day in Philadelphia sports history. On this day back in 1935, this blew my mind. Pulling this nugget of information on January 1st, I figured it was going to be a football-related topic, and I figured it was going to be college football because of what January 1st. It's not necessarily that way anymore, but growing up and prior, the generations that preceded me, January 1st was the day, back in the day, of football, of college football. It was all the bowl games. Pretty much 98% of them were played on New Year's Day. That's not the way it is anymore. And you know what? I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying the way I grew up, it was that way. But on this day back in 1935, which I was not present for, coached by Hall of Fame coach Glenn Pop Warner. That's right, Pop Warner leading the way in the Sugar Bowl. The Temple Owls. That's right, the Temple Owls lost 20-14 to Tulane on this day back in 1935. Temple in the Sugar Bowl. That's definitely not something you hear every day. And you had to reach deep back into the annals of sports history to kind of pull that nugget out. But Temple in the Sugar Bowl, they lost. I don't think Temple's ever won a bowl game. I know the mystique of Philadelphia and our college football allegiances in this city is probably one of the more, fun stories about when you go around and you talk to Philadelphia sports fans, the hardcore ones, the 4 for 4, and you bring up the question of college football. I noticed there's one of 3 answers when you ask a Philadelphia sports fan about their college football allegiance. It's Penn State, Notre Dame, or I don't follow college football that way. I watch it, but I don't have a team. That's the 3 most popular answers you hear in the city of Philadelphia when it comes to college football. And it's unfortunate because the history of why we gravitate towards Penn State, and I would say the majority of Philadelphia sports fans gravitate towards Penn State, even though Happy Valley is located about 5 hours away, more closer to Pittsburgh than it is anywhere else in the world. We gravitate towards Penn State because of the futility of Temple. I mean, let's face it. Is there not a more cursed Division I football franchise out there on the face of the earth than the Temple Owls? I mean, I know there was a time in my life growing up in the mid-'80s, the Paul Palmer days, that the team was decent for about 2 or 3 years. Then they were bad again. And they were bad up until about the 2010s when Matt Rule, P.J. Walker, and them guys, I believe Hassan Reddick too was part of that, started their push for greatness over about a 4 to 5 year span. But now they stink again. So you're looking at 2 periods of history, of playing history, that a franchise that an institution that's been around as long as Temple has, that the Temple Owls are any good. So what else are we supposed to do? If you're going to gravitate towards college football in Philadelphia, you're going to have to gravitate towards somebody other than Temple. There's just not, it's not feasible, man. It's not feasible to hook into Temple. Now, Nova being Division II, of course, it's not a sexy program, and the whole Nova Philly thing. But if people are going to root for Penn State, because for me, for example, I am a Penn. I associate, or I recognize Penn State as my. If I was going to say who's your favorite college football team, it's Penn State. It was growing up. It was Penn State. It's Penn State. Basketball, college-wise, I'm a Nova fan through and through to the end. I've always been Nova through and through as a college basketball fan. And that, of course, is a whole other argument when it comes to college basketball in Philadelphia versus Delaware County and Nova, Temple, and the other Big Five. I get that. But there's no other powerhouse college football program in the state or in the area that we would kind of gravitate. I mean, you can't be a Rutgers fan, right? I mean, that's Jersey, that's New York. You can't do that. It's Penn State or it's Notre Dame for the Irish thing, right? And I'm not Irish, so. And I've always put Notre Dame in the same category as the Dallas Cowboys. I can't stand Notre Dame. I've never hooked into that ever. Penn State's been my team since I've been a kid, and they will remain my team. But on this day back in 1935, that was a real long-winded way to tell you about Temple losing in the Sugar Bowl on this day back in 1935 to Tulane. But they did. They actually made it to the Sugar Bowl on this day in 1935, which, of course, will start me on my first topic, and that, of course, is your day in Philadelphia sports. And now let's move on to the Sugar Bowl related incident. The Sugar Bowl game between the University of Georgia and Notre Dame, scheduled for 8 o'clock tonight. has been postponed till tomorrow in light of what occurred in New Orleans this morning. A terrorist attack about 3 o'clock in the morning, where a alleged terrorist drove his car into a crowd of people, killing, now I'm hearing, 15, injuring at least 30. Has delayed the game and pushed the game till tomorrow night, as obviously we grapple now for answers about what happened, who was involved, who was responsible. Is this a part of a bigger plan on all those things? And, you know, first and foremost, hearts and prayers go out, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts, prayers, and my heart go out to the families affected by this. You know, you're celebrating on New Year's Eve in New Orleans, one of the best party cities in the face of the earth. If you have never been, and New Orleans right now is going to be front and center in some of the more high-profile sporting events, especially in football. You got the Sugar Bowl, which will happen again tomorrow. And then, of course, it's the site of Super Bowl 59 here in February. So, you know, the attention is going to be on New Orleans now. It's been on New Orleans. But if you've ever been, and I know most people have, they've gone to Bourbon Street. They've been there for Mardi Gras. They've done that. And I've done it. It's an awesome place. And I've never had a problem there, ever. And at 3 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Eve, when seemingly the night is over or wrapping up, to actually be involved in something like that is, you know, it's disgusting regardless. But the circumstances around it are just horrific, terrifying, and again, my heart goes out to the family and the people involved in that, because nobody thought on New Year's Eve at 3 a.m. on Bourbon Street their life would end. And stuff like this in this world's got to end, and stuff like this in this country has got to end. These attacks, these types of events got to end in this country somehow, and we got to find a way to end them. Now, as far as the decision to postpone the Sugar Bowl from tonight to tomorrow, I understand the reasoning around it. I understand why they're making that decision. I get in taste, in respect, out of what has happened. I understand that. But I honestly, if it was up to me, I'd say play. I mean, what is the biggest way to be defiant against violence and terror? Or what is the goal of violence and terror? It's to scare you into submission. It's to keep you inside. It's to stop you from doing what you do on a daily basis. And what better way to be defiant to terror and violence than to go out and continue to live your life? And I take lessons learned from 9/11. You know, we didn't lock ourselves in our houses. You know, the NFL postponed itself for a week out of respect, but then we went right back to work, and we went right back to the way our life was supposed to be. So I understand the reasoning around doing it, and I respect it, and I support it. But I also caution that we got to be careful not to show fear, and not to show submission, and not to show that it's affecting us. So the Sugar Bowl will happen tomorrow. As of right now, I've heard it will happen tomorrow between Georgia and Notre Dame. And I expect a moment of silence. I expect some sort of tribute to the fallen and some sort of honor to the police officers who responded. And you know, there was police officers shot. There was a gun battle that ensued. I expect some sort of honor and some sort of ceremony to be on display at that game. So again, my thoughts, my prayers, my heart goes out to the families of those that were killed, those that were injured, to include the police officers that gallantly rushed into the face of death and danger at 3 a.m. on New Year's Eve and defended the city of New Orleans. So again, you know, it's a shame that we got to bring life into sports, and it's a shame that we got to talk about this stuff. And it's senseless. It's not the way you want to start out the year. So there's my little 2 cents on that. And with the college playoffs that are in full swing, again, last night I was on the post game. I had to clear the ice program, the Flyers, and you know, yesterday or last night it was an 8 o'clock start in San Jose. Right, you had an 8 o'clock start in Ottawa between USA and Canada, and you had a 7 o'clock start between Penn State and Boise State. So I am literally bouncing between two computers and a television for the majority of last night. Oh, and of course, the Winter Classic was at 5 between St. Louis and Chicago from Wrigley Field. So from about 5 o'clock to around 11, when I got off the air after doing the post game, it was pretty, or 11:30 actually. It was pretty sports dependent, and I'm trying to capture stuff from all three events. I'm going back and forth, looking at the Flyers game, looking at the Team USA game, looking at the Penn State game, all at the same time, trying to mash information from all these events. And of course, being that I had the post game, I was trying to pay most attention to the Flyers, but in the course of all that, I missed the Sam Ersson injury. I did. I ain't gonna lie to you. I missed it. And I went on to the post game and, lauded Sam Ersson for his ability to pitch a shutout against San Jose. And he did play well up until he got hurt. But what I did not provide was, praise and acknowledgement of Kovasov's role in preserving that shutout last night against San Jose. So here's me fixing my mistake from last night. So I give out proper respect and thanks to Alexei Kovasov for his cleanup role in last night's game against the San Jose Sharks. So I'm trying to balance three different sporting events at the same time. But Penn State, all over Boise State, it was kind of a close game. It kind of got out of control at the end. There were some mistakes made by Penn State in this game. They looked like the better team. That Tyler Warren kid, if the Eagles don't draft him, if he's available when the Eagles pick in the first round, he would definitely be the stopgap and the savior at tight end we're looking for the next 10 years. If he's available in the first round and the Eagles are poised to select him, I say go ahead and draft him, make him the first ever Philadelphia Eagles draft tight end first round pick. Actually, I think Keith Jackson was, but make him a high draft pick if they have an opportunity. This kid's a game changer. He takes over games. He can also block. So if you are looking for my MattyB's early draft prediction, Philadelphia Eagles taking Tyler Warner in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft, which would be okay by me. But Penn State was able to roll the victory, win the Fiesta Bowl, and get themselves a punch their ticket to the Orange Bowl, which they will now face the winner of the Sugar Bowl tomorrow night now between UGA and Notre Dame. Earlier today, the best game of the day, so far the best game of the playoffs, was the Texas-Arizona State game. I ain't gonna lie and sit here and tell you that I watched 1 second of Texas football all season or 1 second of Florida or Arizona State football in the last 10 years. I don't think I've ever watched any Arizona State football. But today I got sucked into that game and I could not stop watching it. Back and forth. Everything that's great about college football on New Year's Day was evident in this game. Texas came out, it was Arizona State got the early lead. Texas came back, built a lead. Then Arizona State chipping away, ties it up late. Some missed field goal opportunities, a missed penalty call. Helmet contact wasn't called, which prompted the game to go into overtime. It went through 2 overtimes, and Texas became victorious. Moving on, and they will face the winner of the Ohio State-Oregon game, which was Ohio State by a landslide, which is scary that Ohio State was able to dispatch Oregon as handily as they did. What was the final of that game? Like 42-14? 41-21. And that score's too close than that game actually was. Earlier today, it was 39-31, Texas over Arizona State. So Ohio State will now face Texas in the Cotton Bowl next week in the semifinals. And Penn State will face either Georgia or Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl in the semifinals as well next week. So the college football, first year of the college football playoff, definitely working out for me. Should have done this years ago. This has been fun. It's been entertaining. Today's game between Texas and Arizona State, one of the best games I've seen, one of the most entertaining games I've watched in a very, very long time. So full marks so far to the college football playoff system. And one last time, all my thoughts and my prayers all of our thoughts and prayers here at It's a Wrap Sports go out to the families affected by the tragedy this morning in New Orleans, prompting the proposed postponement of the Sugar Bowl tonight till tomorrow night. But I think it's, once again, very important that we don't stop living our lives and that we don't bow down to fear or violence, and that we continue to live our life the way we do. So I am in support of their decision to suspend the game for tonight, but let's get it played tomorrow and go back to living our life. So again, not a way you want to start your 2025. And as I said, I've been to Bourbon Street, I've been to the Quarter. I lived in Louisiana for 2 years, about 25 years ago. I'm very, very familiar with that area. I'm very familiar with the people there, great people. And it's a tragedy, a tragic way to start our year. So let's get back to the way we need to live our life as soon as possible. And for those of you that are keeping track at home, 43 days now until pitchers and catchers report. We're not going to, that's about the most baseball I'm going to talk about tonight, as we will get into some baseball later in the week. There's been some hot stove moves. Phillies did add a minor league. Tyler Gilbert was traded today by the Phillies. For those of you who care, he was sent to the White Sox for a minor league pitcher who pitched in Double-A last year. So Phillies making some moves. I don't know to solidify a World Series, but they're making some moves. Tyler Gilbert, part of the fifth man carousel that the Phillies were kind of employing there at the end of the season, as once the Taijuan Walker experiment didn't work, they didn't really have a pitcher. So Tyler Gilbert was one of the Tylers that got that opportunity to pitch, but he's now on his way to the White Sox, which in the state of that organization, he may be their ace. So we'll see. But yeah. There you are. That was your baseball report for the night. That was your 2025 first day of 2025 baseball report by MattyB on The Final Word. As New Year's Day comes to an end, New Year's Day, what was your New Year's Day like? As I told you, I kind of laid low today, hung out at home, trying to catch up on some things. But as I was looking around the internet, I was able to actually catch some of the Mummers Day parade down there on Broad Street. I don't know about you, but it looked mighty thin down there, like in terms of people. And it made me think about some of my memories growing up as a child in Mayfair in the 80s. My father was a cop. He was a Philadelphia police officer for 27 years. And that meant 27 years pretty much of never seeing him on New Year's Day, because everybody back in the day, and I'm sure it's still that way today, every cop in the city was essentially working on New Year's Day. They were working the parade, and he was assigned to the 6th District down in Chinatown, so it was part of that geographical area. I'm sure if they were up in the Northeast or in Kensington or other places in the city, they weren't working. But if you were part of one of the districts that covered Center City in that area, you were working. So my dad, for the bulk of my childhood growing up, was with the 6th District and always working, even as a sergeant, always working on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day down at the parade. But that allowed me at a very young age to experience the Mummers Day parade. And I experienced it every year in all kinds of different weather. And I actually thank my dad and his career choice for that, because it made me a better rounded individual. I know there's some anti-Mummers people out there that can't stand it. There's some people out there that think it's ridiculous or whatever. I think it's the most unique thing about Philadelphia that we have, is that celebration. Do people take it too far? Yeah, absolutely they do. I mean, I'm not going to say that, but that doesn't mean that everybody does. And you don't stop something because of a few bad apples, right? You keep doing it. And year after year, growing up, my mom would drag me down to Center City, even when I didn't want to go. And we would jump on the L and we'd head down, and we'd link up somewhere on Broad, and we find out where he was, and we hang out with him for a little bit. Then we go have dinner and go home, and I'd watch the fancy division. We would never go down that early, so I'd miss the comics. But we'd always catch the fancies and always catch the string bands. And watching that growing up was something I'll never forget. And there was one year, I remember we actually got there really late, and he was about to get off work, and we met him over at the 6th. But of course, I was probably about 10 years old. I'm sitting in the police station waiting for my dad, me and my mom. And they're dragging drunks past me as they're hauling them into the drunk tank. I'm like 10 years old, man. I'm like, do I really need to be seeing this? But hey, again, that's what makes Philadelphia Philadelphia and makes us all unique because of all of our experiences growing up in this very unique city. So I don't know what your New Year's Day, it was either that or we're just hanging around the house. So, but primarily that was my New Year's Day memory was the parade. That was how we spent New Year's Day. We went down there and we enjoyed it. But I know it's changed. And what I was watching today, where are the people? I mean, I'm looking around. I'm like, there's like nobody there. And I'm talking like, I get it. A lot of people, but I do remember back like a long time ago, people would show up at 9:00 in the morning in order to get a good spot. Some would show up around 7 in the morning to get a good spot on Broad Street. Now, I mean, I was up there. I was watching a video feed from like literally right in front of City Hall, like the cherry spot on Broad, like the spot on Broad where they perform. And there's like one deep, if that. You could actually get up to the railing and watch. That was unheard of when I was growing up. And I don't know if it's because maybe of what happened today earlier. Maybe that scared some people away, potentially. But yeah, I found that very interesting that it was like that. But yeah, as far as me though, that was my number one experience growing up as a child on New Year's Day, enjoying the Mummers Day Parade, and I hope it's there for generations to come. I never had the opportunity to take my daughters. Always meant to, and never had it. Maybe I will take them now that they're adults. Well, my oldest is 19, and my two youngest are 16. Maybe if things work out, maybe I'll bring them down there at some point and we'll go down. But and also my new family, my stepkids and my wife, they've never been. It's now probably going to be one more trip back down to the New Year's Day parade some year here soon to show them that. But we'll see. Because I'm definitely a different person now than I was then. But there's my New Year's Day moment, my New Year's Day memory. It was primarily the Mummers Day Parade. Growing up, the son of a cop in Philadelphia. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. That was from the bottom of my heart, man. I mean, I was reaching deep down for that. I let you into my soul to give you my New Year's Day memory. All right. Eagles time, as the Eagles are back at it today. And I guess the news coming out of the NovaCare complex is that all the starters, well, actually, I don't want to misquote it. Maybe I should have written it down, but it sounds like starters will rest. I'm not hearing any straight up, this guy's inactive, that guy's inactive. Now, I know there's roster constraints. They can't straight up inact people. People are going to have to start the game. But as far as I am understanding, Saquon Barkley, Nick Sirianni are in agreement that he will not play, or he will not play on Sunday, and that the record will not be something that the Eagles will go after, or that Saquon Barkley will attempt to do on this Eagles finale game against the Giants. I told you earlier in the week that I am 100% in favor of Saquon Barkley going for the record. I think it's something that in this town with this organization that has not had the best luck and has not been rewarded enough with some of the big time hardware in the NFL. Why not? An opportunity of an Eagle to go out and get an NFL record, I was 100% in support of. And I thought very plainly that, yeah, I get the bigger picture and I understand it's all about a Super Bowl, and God knows that I would be remiss, be the biggest hypocrite in the world if I wasn't in support of doing something for a Super Bowl. But this is something that was right there. It was within the grasp. 100 and some odd, 101 he needed, 101 yards. Could have gotten that in the first half. Hell, he probably could have gotten that in the first quarter. And then you could have sat him the rest of the time. But I understand the holistic view of it all. But what I watched today from Nick Sirianni and what I watched today from Saquon Barkley is I don't really get the warm and fuzzy that he won't play at all. I'm thinking that maybe there's I wouldn't be surprised. No one said he's not playing. And I guess maybe by rules you can't. Right? You can't say that, because if he's deactivated, then it has to be for an injury, right? You just can't say he's not playing not to play. So starters will rest. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean he gets no snaps? Does that mean the starters get no snaps? Does he come out for one series? Does he get one handoff? Does he get one opportunity to run for 101 yards? Do they give the ball to him on the 1 yard line and tell him good luck? Does he get 1, 2, 3 snaps? Does he get none? Is he on the depth chart? I mean, I came out of that maybe I read it wrong. Maybe everyone else is seeing it the other way, but I really don't get. I don't think it's 100% that he won't play. I don't know, but it's a shame though if he doesn't. Honestly, I really feel that way. I think that when you look back, this is not going to happen again to Saquon Barkley. It won't. I mean, this doesn't happen every day. He had an opportunity to take his place, and he still is going to take his place on a pretty illustrious list of single season rushing leaders and rushing yards. Over 2,000 is nothing to shake a stick at, but he had a shot at the record, and he had a legitimate shot at that record. But I guess maybe they figured 101 yards was too much, was too far, had too many unknown variables there. And so they're going to go ahead and sit him for the final game, or they're going to rest him for the final game against the Giants on Sunday. But that doesn't mean that we're going to rest here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Nope. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, folks. That's right. 4 o'clock. Kyle Quinn will return to the Birds Blast as we will look back on the Dallas Cowboy game one last time. Maybe look ahead at the Giants game. I'm not really certain that we're going to spend much time talking about the Giants X's and O's of this game. I don't really know if there's really any X's and O's to talk about here, but we'll get Kyle's opinion about the Saquon Barkley situation. We'll maybe also preview a little bit of the playoffs as Kyle Quinn will return from his hiatus from last week, and he'll be here tomorrow at 4 p.m. That's right, 4 p.m. for the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn. So we're looking forward to that, and make sure you're here. And probably one of the conversations that we'll bring up will be the current playoff situation within the NFL. And there's some news. Of course, with the games that wrapped up on Monday night. This is your current playoff picture heading into the final weekend of the season. Eagles are number 2. That's not changing. They're not going up. They're not going down. They are going to be your second seed. The Rams are at 3, and then that's about all we know for certain. And then the Commanders at 6 and the Packers at 7, but that could also change. So there's still a lot of upsies and downsies going on in the playoff picture, but these 6 teams right here are in the NFC are making the playoffs. The only other variable is these 2, as the NFC South division still is up for grabs, and it'll be decided on Sunday when Tampa Bay plays New Orleans and Atlanta plays Carolina. I guess winner take all here. The winner of their, I would imagine so, if they're not giving it to Tampa. So we're going to have to wait and see who will be the 4th seed in the NFC, because the winner of that game will be, or the winner of that division will fall into that 4 hole in the NFC playoff push. And of course, the other position is between 1 and 5, as the Lions, who will play the Vikings on Sunday, and with the number 1 overall seed and the NFC North still in the balance. So this could all look different next week. We could be looking at Minnesota as 1. We could be looking at, Detroit as 5. This could all look different. So the NFC, 2 critical races up for grabs, but these are the teams right here, and with the exception of one of these 2. So you're looking at 6 out of the 7 teams that will definitely be heading to the playoffs in the NFC. The AFC, it's a little bit more clearer. The only real position now is a fight between the Broncos, Dolphins, and Bengals for the final seed in the AFC. Wouldn't it be something if Cincinnati actually made a push after the season they've had, and they find their way into the playoffs as the 7 seed? And I guarantee you no one's going to want to play them at all, because they would be scared of them, and that would put up a first-round battle between Buffalo and Cincinnati. And, of course, we already know the history there, that Buffalo can't beat Cincinnati in the playoffs for some odd reason. So things are wrapping up, and this is your NFL playoff bracket heading into the final week of the season. Some positions up for grab. Teams are pretty much understood and locked in the NFC side, with the exception of either Tampa or Atlanta. There's a race for the 7th seed in the AFC between 3 different teams. But here you have it, and everything will be figured out come Sunday. No Monday night games this weekend. No Thursday night games either, as everything will wrap up on Sunday to give everybody a level playing field as we get ready for the playoffs starting next week. So there you have it, man. And of course, the Eagles will not have the first round bye. So I guess that's another reason for, resting their starters here tomorrow or on Sunday against the Giants, as game means absolutely nothing for the Eagles. It means absolutely nothing for the Giants either. I mean, they already screwed themselves, I guess, for winning last week. They should have lost that game against the Colts. They went from the number 1 overall draft pick down to the 4th with that win. So we'll see how Sunday is. Sunday, the 4th or 5th preseason game. I know tickets for that game are probably going to be pretty easy to come by and pretty cheap to come by for Sunday's game. But this is one of those games where you go to have fun. And maybe you see history. Maybe Nick Sirianni does Nick Sirianni things and he puts Saquon Barkley in and he actually gets a shot at the record. Maybe that happens. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past him. But that's going to be your Eagles wrap of the night. And don't forget, tomorrow at 4 p.m., the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn will be back for our Week 18 version. We'll look back at the Cowboys game, and we'll preview the Giants game. And then next week, of course, we enter our postseason mode of the Birds Blast. And how that works is, simply put, as long as the Eagles win, we're coming back every week. But if, for example, we go into the first playoff week, the wild card week, and the Eagles lose, we won't come back as the Birds Blast until the Thursday after the Super Bowl, when we'll review the rest of the playoffs and talk about a little bit about what happened to the Eagles and kind of start talking about 2025 and the draft potential. And of course, this thing right here, which we've been talking about now for a couple of weeks, here you have it. This is the 2025 schedule. Of course, that final, the LA Rams / Buccaneers, you can also put a / Atlanta Falcons in there, because that game is between the NFC West and the NFC South winners. So that's obviously not determined yet whether it might be Tampa or not, but this is a 99.9% resolution of what the 2025 Eagles schedule will look like. And again, if this doesn't give you more motivation as an Eagle fan for the Eagles to win a Super Bowl this year, I don't know what to tell you, man, because this thing is going to be a bitch. I mean, it ain't going to be like 2024. This has got 2023 vibes all over it. This road schedule, I don't know who negotiated that, but that's what the road schedule is going to look like next year. They're going to Kansas City, Buffalo, Green Bay, Minnesota, and I believe it might be both LAs. So they may have 2 West Coast trips sandwiched in between going to Kansas City, Buffalo, Green Bay, and Minnesota. So this is going to be a hell of a schedule next year. So that's some of the stuff we'll be talking about if the Eagles don't advance. And we'll probably talk about that either way as we get to the end of this. But again, if that doesn't provide you more motivation as Eagle fans to win a Super Bowl this year, then I don't know, because that 2025 schedule is looking pretty daunting. So that's my Eagles little spielzo. Let's move into hockey now. Again, I said at the top of the show, I had to provide an apology to Alexei Kovaslov. In my attempt to watch 3 different sporting events at the same time, I actually missed when they moved away from Urson to Kovaslov, not giving Kovaslov his proper due for lending in the save role, the closer role, if you will, of the shutout last night against San Jose. So I wanted to go back and make that right. But the Flyers did win 4-0, and now they're headed to Las Vegas tomorrow, and they will wrap up their West Coast portion before wrapping up the road trip in Toronto on Sunday. Urson is injured. I have not heard anything about the injury. He left the game yesterday with an injury. And again, that's probably why Fedotov was not was not sent down like we've been talking about because there were some questions about the durability of Sam Ersson. Now, unfortunately, Sam Ersson has been probably the most consistent of our goalies this season up to this point. And now, you're going to have to do without that. But it's all part of the rebuild, right? I mean, Sam Ersson may be the most consistent, but if he's not in there enough because of injury, he's not doing anybody any good. So we'll wait and see more about Ersson, but the Flyers are continuing on with their road trip against Vegas and then Toronto on Sunday and before coming home next week after a very daunting 6 games. On the WJC circuit, again, if you weren't paying attention, we posted it on our Facebook page last night and on our X account. Team USA, a resounding 4-1 win over Canada, finishing up pool play for the WJC. USA goes into the qualifying round as a 3-0-1 team as they now are on their way, hopefully, to a medal round appearance this weekend. There was no games today, but the qualifying round will start tomorrow. And then the medal round will begin on Friday. So far, so good for a team and Team USA that was not really looked at as a strong medal qualifier this year. There were some, maybe bronze, but they were definitely not a gold medal expectations from a lot of people, but they're playing definitely like that heading into the back end of this tournament. They've been pretty much unstoppable, and they've been getting great goaltending from Augustine. They've been getting great forward play. Their offense has been pressuring. Again, some of the young stars of tomorrow are on display, and actually that leads me to my next segue, which let's talk about our of the night segment. Of course, this is the part of the show where we talk about either a Flyer draft pick, a Flyers draft pick target, a Phillies draft pick target, a Flyers prospect, Phillies prospect, or a spotlight player. So let's roll the graphic. All right. So as promised, we have entered into 2025. So we are going to move away from just talking about Flyers prospects because now we got to open it up. We got to get it more broad because we're running out of time as we're going to start getting into the baseball season here, thankfully. But we're going to start incorporating different aspects of the segment. So we're going to talk NHL draft target tonight. And again, keeping with the Team USA theme, here is one of your consensus, I shouldn't say consensus, one of your high projected targets in this coming draft, a member of Team USA, James Haggins. There you go. He is currently a center for the Boston College Eagles in the NCAA, but he also, of course, plays for the National Development Program. 5'10", 172 pounds. His game is about skating and playmaking. He is so breezy as a skater, making his patterns look easy. He's on top of the ice. He's agile. He hits his stride, and edges are dynamic, light, mobile, and adjustable with legitimate speed. Not fake speed, but legitimate speed. Haggins comes into this season. There's some people that are saying he's consensus number one, but it's not a slam dunk. It's not like it's been for last year what was for Bedard. It wasn't like it was or 2 years for Bedard or last year about Celebrini. This is more of a kind of it's a fight between two different camps. I'm not going to give you away who the other player is because we're probably going to talk about him in a couple of days. But James Haggins, depending on who you talk to, is your potential first overall pick in this summer's draft. Currently for Boston College this year, 16 games played, 5 goals, 5 assists, 20 points, and a stellar plus 15. That's right. He's on the ice a lot when they score. So far through the WJC tournament, 4 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points, and a plus 4. So Haggins is this year's, again, he's not this year's Connor Bedard. He's not. But, and he's not Macklin Celebrini. But if you talk to a lot of people, this is it. This is your potential. Again, I say potentials because it's not a lock, but this is your potential number 1 overall pick in this summer's draft. And at 5'10" and 172 pounds as a center, I'm okay with that, I guess. I don't know if that's going to work in the NHL. You might see him converted to a wing. I wouldn't be surprised, but if he can put on some weight, I don't know if he's going to grow any, but it's a little on the light side for 5'10", 172 pounds. But what he does is he possesses a lot of lightning fast puck handling ability, and that might put him on the wing. His speed is good. His speed is very good. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody converted him to a winger in the NHL. But currently he is a centerman for the Boston College Eagles. And there you go. James Higgins, our first look at an NHL draft target. Wow. Mark it on your calendar, man. We've broadened it. No longer just looking at Flyers prospects. We actually looked at a NHL draft target, James Higgins. You might have seen the hashtag horrible for Higgins. That's what it's the new one this year. I believe it's on one of our, I think it's on the Clear the Ice. I think it's on that. But I would definitely be okay with Higgins. As I said, I don't see him projecting as an NHL centerman, and we're in dire need of those. I just don't think he's built like that. Cutter Gauthier is a perfect example. He's playing left wing right now for the Ducks. He's not playing center. I know, but you got Morgan Frost who can play center, and Frost is about the same type of body type. Higgins is a little bit more broader than Frost, but they got Frost playing center, but Frost projects out to be a left wing. So I don't know what's going on, and I don't know where Higgins will project out, but he is currently a centerman for Boston College. Do I see him being a center in the NHL? I don't know. And I don't know if we're going to have that problem here. I don't think that's going to be a problem that the Flyers are going to have, is projecting out to where they're going to play James Higgins. He will not be available unless the Flyers are picking anywhere in the top 3. I'll put him in the top 3. I'm not going to put him a slam dunk as a 1. But if the Flyers can find their way into the top 3, there's a chance they might get him. But he will not survive to 15. He won't survive to the middle of the first round. He will not. But there you have it. James Higgins, this year's kind of consensus number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft. So we're going to start identifying those guys and introducing you to those players starting now as we get ready for the draft in July, because you can never get ready for the draft too early, especially when you're a rebuilding club like the Flyers. So there you have it. There was our Of the Night segment, a NHL draft target in James Higgins. All right, let's move over to the best part of the night, and it's not waking up. No, it's not. It's this.
Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
That's right. It is your card review time. It's card review time. Woo, woo, woo. Get all the nice bells and whistles going. This is the part of the show where we take a few minutes and we introduce you to one of my sports cards of my very vast sports card collection. Sometimes it's a Wayne Gretzky. Sometimes it's not. It is just a matter of the luck of the draw. And I don't discriminate, man. If they make it to the binders, which a lot of them have, then I talk about them on this program. Once I get through the 9 binders, we'll talk about the other cards, the real obscure ones. But that probably won't be until I don't think I'll be alive. But yeah, so this is our card review section. Again, this is the most funnest part of my day, is when I get a chance to do this. And we're going to stay on baseball, and we're going to stay in the 87 tops. As I told you this before too, I got a lot of them. And we're going to continue on with the 87 tops and in baseball. And one of those obscure players from the 80s that wasn't so obscure, and I would have really loved to have him playing for the Phillies during that time, but he didn't. But he helped out other teams in the American League. And again, being from that era and not seeing a lot of games in the American League, because you can only see those in the playoffs or World Series or All-Star Game or on the NBC Game of the Week or the ABC Game of the Week. He was one of those players that kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people in Philadelphia, but for some odd reason, I guess on This Week in Baseball we saw him too. But a basher for the Minnesota Twins, and I'm talking about Mr. Tom Brunansky. And there's the Tom Bernanski 87 Topps card. Bruno, as he was known in the Minnesota Twin area, played 8 seasons for the Twins, or was it 6 seasons? I'm going to see. Hang on, I have it written down. He was with the Twins from 82 to 88. Actually started his career out with the Angels, was spent 1 year there, was traded in the end of the 81 season to Minnesota, where he spent 82 through 88. And then through that time, and that was probably his most productive part of his career. And that's where we all began to acknowledge who he was. He was an all-star in 85, and he was a part of the 87 Twins World Championship team. For his career, a very modest 245 batting average, 271 home runs, and 919 runs batted in. I believe it was the Homer Dome out there in Minnesota that really, he really like gravitated towards. It was like his perfect hitting park, as he was really, I think the best, as I mentioned, the best part of his career was spent with the Minnesota Twins. But he was traded to the Cardinals in the offseason, the 87 offseason. Actually, he was traded right before opening day. Right before. It might have actually, the season might have even began. It was early April of 88 that he was traded to the Cardinals for Tommy Herr. Tommy Herr. You guys remember Tommy? He spent 1 year with Minnesota before he got himself out of there and actually ended up with the Phillies. So that was the, I guess, 7 degrees to Tommy Herr for the Phillies. But there you go. Tom Bernanski. This card is absolutely 100% worthless if you're not a Tom Bernanski fan. If you're trying to build the empire of the world or corner the world's financial market, you're not doing it with a Tom Bernanski 87 Topps card. The best I could find this card anywhere was for about $2. So not going to make a lot of money, but it's iconic to me. Again, it represents an era. And if you look at the old school uniform that he's wearing the old Twins uniform. This is before they went to the pinstripes. I like to call them the Kirby Puckett uniform. And then, of course, now that they've sort of kind of gone back to this style, they've gone back to, but there's the old logo of the Twin baseball players. They've incorporated that back into their whole like design. But this was during the old school Twins uniforms. I believe in 88 is when they changed them. Or no, 87 was when they changed them. So this was 86. So this was the last year that they wore them. But again, he's one of those players that are obscure because of where he played and the era he played in relation to Philadelphia. But I've always liked him. He's a bashing outfielder. Would have fit nicely in Veterans Stadium if the Phillies were able to get him. He never actually made it to Philadelphia. He bounced around a little bit. Never made it to Philadelphia. But there you have tonight's card of the night, the 87 Topps, Tom Bernanski. And here it is in its actual physical form. Pretty clean version of the card. It's cut really well. Centering, no centering issues and very sharp edges. But again, the best I could find that card anywhere was for about $2. So you're not going to go ahead and you're not going to corner the market on Tom Bernanski's 87 Topps. But there you have it. Tom Bernanski, tonight's card. And that, folks, is going to take me to the end of our very first program of 2025. Wow. I said this last night on Clear the Ice. You never know what the year will bring. You never know what things will bring. This is our 49th episode of The Final Word. This is our first episode of any programming on the network in 2025. And where we are now is probably where we're not going to be 365 days from now. It's just the way life is, and that's great because it shouldn't be the same. Things should change all the time, for the good and for the worse. I mean, life is all about a series of changes. And of course, where we are today is nowhere near where I was a year ago today. And I'm not going to get into more of that. We've already exhausted the EOP thing. I'm not going to talk more about that, but for the good or for the bad, I'm here. We're here, but we're debuting new logos. We're full steam ahead with this project, and we're going to take it as far as it's going to take us. But I guarantee you, we will not quit, and we will try to continue to bring you the best that we can, but we will also be growing. And I fully expect the network to look completely different 365 days from now than it does today. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to be concerned because I failed somewhere. And to the members of the network today, of course, Sal G, the only real like solid full-time member, but we have contributing members that are all over the place. And Mike Lauro is joining the group next month. Again, hopefully I can sit here and rattle off about 7 or 8 names by this point next year and thank them for their contributions to the network. But we're going to grow, and we're going to continue to grow, and we're going to be as good as we can be. We need your help. Please like and subscribe and pass on the word. But I do want to wish you guys one final time a very happy new year. And I hope 2025 brings you everything that you're looking for in life, but don't be scared of change. Don't be scared of some change that might come in your life in 2025. And you might think it's bad change, but I think ultimately all change is good if you learn from it and it makes you stronger. I honestly do. So final time, Happy New Year. My thoughts and prayers, and all of our thoughts and prayers here at the It's a Wrap Sports Network, go out to all the people affected by the events in New Orleans this morning. And obviously we condemn the activities, but we stress very clearly and very hard and very passionately, get back to work, get back to life as soon as possible, because we cannot lose the fear. We cannot. Tonight we talked a little bit about that. We talked about the college football playoffs, talked about some of my New Year's Day memories growing up, and we also went into our we did a little bit of a Flyer recap, very little bit, and talked about some of the Eagles' upcoming news. Saquon Barkley apparently will not be chasing the record on Sunday. The Birds Blast will be back tomorrow, and we did our of the night segment talking about James Higgins and potential number 1 overall draft pick in this summer's NHL draft, and our card review section was Tom Verdansky. So we filled up a very quiet night, a very light night in sports, dominated by college football, as it should be, though, on New Year's Day, as it was for me growing up. So we will be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, and then tomorrow night for the final broadcasting episode of the week for the final word. And then, of course, this weekend, we will have you covered for the Birds Flyby and the Giants and all the post-game coverage of the Flyers. Tomorrow night, Sal has you on the Clear the Ice program. There it is. I will be back on Sunday with the Maple Leafs, but Sal will be taking you tomorrow with the Vegas Golden Knights. He gets the late night duty tomorrow. I'm done, man. I'm done with the West Coast. Give me a break for once. But yeah, a lot of stuff still coming on. The week is still going strong, and we cannot wait to be back with you. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. So until then, enjoy the rest of your night and have a better tomorrow. We'll see you.
I've been coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. I drop the top when I'm in it. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Yeah, I go so. Everybody know I'm hot. You know when it click through. Then it's about to be a so big blind.